never believed in the strange stories. Lights in the sky, shadows that moved where no shadows should, creatures not from this world. I always chalked it up to conspiracy theorists with too much time and too little sleep. But that was before the night she came into my life. It was the third night I'd camped near the ridge. I was alone, truly alone, miles from the nearest road, tucked deep in a patch of dense forest where signals died and time seemed to stall. I was there chasing silence, a break from everything. No phone, no noise, no past. Just the cold wind, a campfire, and my old canvas tent swaying slightly in the breeze. The sky was bruised with dark clouds, the kind that promise a storm but never deliver it. I'd been writing in my field journal, noting the strange burn marks I'd found on the trees that morning. Circular patterns, almost deliberate. But that was just curiosity, not belief. Until I heard it. A soft thud, then another. Not footsteps exactly, more like pressure. Weight displacing the earth, approaching slowly, precisely. I froze. Every instinct in me screamed that no animal moved like that. Then, the sound of the tent flap lifting. I turned my head, and everything shifted. She stood there, framed by the dim glow of the fire behind her. Tall, barefoot, her skin shimmered like emerald under the moon's gaze. Green, but not painted, not artificial. It was her. Long silver hair cascaded over her shoulders, eyes like melting mercury locked on mine, and she didn't blink. "Are you alone?" she whispered. Her voice wasn't cold. It was smooth, deliberate, like someone who had studied how humans speak but never actually felt the words before. Her accent was nothing I could place, not foreign, not earthly. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I wasn't scared, not exactly. My heart was pounding, but something about her presence, her calm, rooted me to the spot. Without waiting, she stepped inside. Every movement she made was fluid, intentional, like gravity obeyed her differently. She stood just a few feet away from me now, not saying a word, only studying me. I couldn't tell if she was analyzing me or deciding something. Then slowly she reached for her chest. Her fingers, long, slender, tipped with faintly glowing nails, unhooked a clasp on what I only now realized was some kind of armor. Not metal, not fabric, something in between. It hissed softly as she removed the first piece, letting it fall to the ground with a muted clink. She didn't stop. Another clasp, another drop. Piece by piece, the alien plating fell away, revealing more of her strange, perfect form, unlike anything I'd ever imagined, and yet undeniably human. Not in anatomy, but in presence, in energy. Still, not a word from either of us. She watched my reaction with eyes that seemed to peer through me, as if she already knew everything I was thinking. I should have backed away, asked questions, demanded answers, but I didn't, because in that moment I realized something that froze me more than her arrival ever could. She wasn't just showing herself to me, she was trusting me, and that somehow felt far more dangerous than any weapon. What came next changed everything. The silence between us was deafening. Her armor lay in fragments on the dirt floor of my tent, each piece glinting faintly in the firelight like shards of a fallen star. She stood tall, unflinching, her bare skin catching the warmth of the flames, but her gaze never left mine. It was then that I heard her again, but not through my ears. "My name is Nora." The words echoed inside my skull, soft, steady, impossibly clear. My mouth didn't move, neither did hers. I blinked. "Did you just—" "Yes," she answered silently, though her lips never parted. "I can speak your way, but this is easier, safer." Her voice in my mind wasn't just sound, it was sensation, like warmth sliding down the back of my neck. Like the gravity in the room had shifted to make space just for her. I tried to steady my breath. "What are you?" She tilted her head slightly, an oddly human gesture. "A survivor," she replied, "of a world long gone, of a war we could not win." As she spoke, images began to rise inside my mind, unbidden. Not visions, memories. Heron. They filled me like a flood, not chaotic but precise, like a carefully chosen download of pain. Flashback. A planet, blue and violet, spinning peacefully in the void. Mountains that shimmered with crystals. Oceans alive with light. And cities, tall, organic, built like they'd grown from the soil itself. Then came fire. Red streaks across the sky. Foreign ships tearing through the clouds like knives through silk. Explosions. Screams. A world breaking apart. I saw Nora then, on her knees, amidst rubble, clutching the lifeless body of someone she loved. A sister, maybe. A friend. Her face marked not by panic, but resolve. A voice echoed in the flashback. Project Seraph must survive. Then the image of a pod, a capsule being launched into space, alone, with her inside. Back in the tent, I gasped, clutching my chest like the air had been sucked out of me. She stepped closer, her silver hair brushing her shoulders. That was 70 years ago, she said silently. Earth is not my mission. It was my exile. I stared at her. You've been here. Since then? She nodded once. I was told to stay hidden, observe, blend in if possible, do not engage. But survival changes orders. Eventually it demands connection. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. Why me? Why now? Her gaze softened, and for the first time since she'd entered my tent, she sat down, cross-legged, as if the weight of memory had pulled her gently to the earth. I've watched many, she said. Humans. You live fast, burn bright, and forget even faster. But you listen, even in your silence. You see things most ignore. A chill ran down my spine. I first found you by accident, she continued. You were out here 6 weeks ago, sitting under the stars. You spoke out loud to no one, asking the sky if anyone was listening. I remembered that night. I'd been drinking, angry, hollow, talking to the stars like a madman. Never imagined something was actually listening. I didn't plan to return, she said, but I kept watching. I don't know why. Until last night, I realized something I was never supposed to feel. She paused. Her expression shifted. Not mechanical, not alien, just afraid. Loneliness. There it was. Not invasion, not conquest, not domination. Just the quiet ache of a soul who had been untethered from everything she knew for longer than any human lifetime. I lowered my guard. So, you're not here to hurt me. No, she answered instantly. I'm here because I need something. I tensed again. What kind of something? Not your body, she said, as if reading my sudden worry. Not your technology, not your planet. She leaned forward slightly, almost imperceptibly. Your decision. That word hung in the air like smoke. My decision? She nodded. There is a choice ahead, one I cannot make alone. It involves you, your world, and what comes next. I tried to press for more, but she held up a hand. Her eyes closed briefly, and I felt a wave of exhaustion crash over me, like her thoughts had drained her. Not tonight. You're not ready, but soon. We sat there in silence, two beings from different worlds, drawn together by something neither could explain. Why trust me? I asked quietly. She opened her eyes and answered aloud this time. Because I've been alone for decades, and when I looked at you, I saw someone who has too. That hit deeper than I expected, because it was true. I didn't respond. I just nodded, and for the first time she smiled. It was small, cautious, like a muscle she hadn't used in a long time. Nora lay back on the floor of the tent, closing her eyes. Not asleep, but resting, trusting me to keep watch. And I did, because no matter what she truly was, I knew one thing for certain. The world was no longer what I thought it was, and I wasn't alone anymore. The fire had burned down to a soft, pulsing glow. The wind outside had calmed. Inside the tent, the air was thick with silence. Not the empty kind, but the charged, unspeakable kind. The kind that lives between people who suddenly realize they're no longer strangers. Nora sat across from me, cross-legged, her posture still and serene. Her eyes watched the firelight dance across my face, studying me. Not like a scientist examines a specimen, but like a soul looking for a reflection. I had 100 questions. None of them seemed to matter. "You said you've been here for decades," I said at last, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Why hide? Why stay away from all of us?" She blinked slowly. Then her thoughts came, not as words but feelings. Because not all species deserve what they want, and not all peace is meant to be shared. She looked away for the first time, her gaze drifting to the open flap of the tent. Outside, the stars shone like scattered diamonds. We came once, long ago, not as conquerors, as seekers, but your kind feared us, fought us, hunted us. So we vanished, observed, learned. I swallowed hard. "And after all that, you still trust me?" She turned back to me, her silver hair catching the last embers of light. "Number, I don't trust easily, but I feel you." That word, feel, struck something deep in me. I'd lived most of my life behind walls, emotional ones, built high and thick, brick by brick, after every goodbye that hurt more than it should have. But this wasn't a woman trying to win me over. This was someone who had lost more than I could comprehend, and still found the courage to sit beside me. "I feel you too," I said quietly, not even sure what I meant, but knowing it was true. We sat there for a long moment, just breathing the same air, letting our silence speak for us. Then she reached for her side, the last piece of armor, a thin curved plate over her lower back, marked with strange symbols that shimmered faintly in the dark. Her fingers hovered over it for a moment, hesitating. "This is the last thing I have left of them," she said aloud this time, her voice soft and raw. "Of my home, of my people." I nodded, not urging her, just listening. She continued, almost to herself. "They told us never to take it off unless we were truly safe. Unless we were certain." Her hands moved slowly, reverently. She unhooked the final clasp and laid the piece gently on the floor beside her. It made no sound. She straightened her spine, shoulders bare now, every part of her open and exposed to the cool night air. Her skin was radiant, not glowing, but alive, and fragile, in a way that made my chest tighten. This wasn't seduction, it wasn't performance, it was surrender. She looked at me with a gaze that held no fear, only vulnerability. "Now you see all of me," she said. I didn't speak. Instead, I reached out, slowly, letting my hand hover a breath away from her shoulder. I waited, eyes locked with hers. She gave a single nod. My fingers touched her skin. It was warm, warmer than I expected, smooth like satin dipped in starlight. And under my touch, I felt something stir, not movement, not sound, a pulse, not of blood, but of energy, like her entire being recognized the contact and returned it. For a moment, time stopped. No past, no fear, no unknown future. Just two beings, no longer alien to each other, sharing a silence so pure it almost hurt. I pulled my hand back slowly, afraid to shatter the moment. She exhaled deeply, not with relief, with release. "I haven't touched another living soul in 61 years, she whispered. I couldn't imagine that kind of isolation. Not really. I thought I'd been lonely before. But Nora had floated through the void of time, memory, and loss, and still had the strength to sit here with me. She curled her knees up to her chest, resting her chin on them. "Tell me about your stars," she said. So I did. I told her about stargazing on my dad's rooftop as a kid, about the time I thought I saw a UFO and convinced my school it was real, about the first time I looked through a telescope and felt small, and somehow safer because of it. She listened, fully, like every word mattered. Then she told me hers. She described constellations with no names in our language. Patterns in the sky used to guide fleets across galaxies. A star they used to call the Mother Flame, now long extinguished. She spoke of love, not romantic but familial, communal. A deep devotion to one another, lost in the fire of war. "I don't want to forget them," she said, but the memories hurt more than they heal. We both stared at the flames as they flickered low. Then maybe, I said slowly, you don't have to forget. Maybe you just add new memories, not to replace the old, but to carry them. She looked at me like she'd never considered that. We didn't sleep that night. We talked until the fire died, until the tent grew cold, until the stars blinked out beneath the soft gray veil of morning. By dawn, nothing had changed, and yet, everything had. Dawn arrived not with birdsong, but with stillness, the kind of heavy watching silence that settles in just before something changes. Outside, the forest was painted in soft hues of pale gold and dusty blue. The world was calm, but it felt false, like a held breath. Inside the tent, Nora stood at the edge, half draped in a rough wool blanket. Her back was to me, her silver hair catching the light as it spilled through the open flap. She hadn't spoken since the sky began to brighten. Something was wrong. I sat up slowly. Nora? She didn't turn. Her voice arrived before she did, once again inside my head, but colder this time. They've found me. I froze. A scout probe passed overhead hours ago. I masked my signal, but it was close. Too close. Now she turned, her face unreadable. There was no panic, only precision. A woman. No, a being who had lived through the end of worlds. She knew what was coming. I rose to my feet, suddenly breathless. Who? Your people? She gave a single solemn nod. Not my people. Not anymore. But my kind. She stepped forward, letting the blanket fall from her shoulders. Her skin, though still radiant, seemed dimmer under the weight of what she carried. They don't know about you. They can't. To them, you're a contaminant, a breach of protocol, an unnecessary variable. I blinked. You mean, if they find me, they'll erase you, quickly, efficiently. I laughed, a dry, disbelieving breath. So what, do I run? Is that the plan? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I turned away, heart racing. My boots crunched on the dirt as I paced. A few hours ago, I was just some guy on a solo escape trip. Now I was marked for death because of a woman, no, a being, who literally dropped into my tent with secrets that bent the laws of everything I thought I knew. But the strangest thing? I wasn't angry. Not really. I looked at her again, at the way her shoulders squared, even in fear, at the sadness in her eyes, not for herself, but for me. You should have left me alone, I said. I tried, she whispered aloud. I sat down, rubbing my face with both hands. You knew this would happen. Eventually, but not like this. I thought I had more time. We sat in silence again, but this time, it wasn't comfortable. It was full of decisions not yet made. Then she crossed the space between us, slowly, deliberately, and sat beside me. Her bare leg brushed against mine. Her hand reached for mine. She didn't grab it. She just let her fingers rest gently on top of mine, cool and trembling. You can go, she said, right now. Walk away. They won't find you if you leave before midday. You'll forget this, or you'll tell yourself it was a dream. I turned to her, shocked. You think I want to forget you? She didn't answer. I squeezed her hand. I don't. Her voice was quiet but firm. Then you'll die. I laughed again, but it was broken now. Well, damn, that's quite the choice you've given me. We sat there facing the edge of the world together, watching the light rise. I had a life, I said. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Simple, predictable, and now, I looked at her, really looked, and now I have you, and I don't even understand what that means yet. She didn't flinch. It means I failed, she said. I was sent to observe, not to feel. I was not supposed to connect. I was supposed to endure. A single tear, silver like mercury, slipped down her cheek. We weren't supposed to feel this. She turned to me fully, her hand tightening around mine. But we do. That was it. The moment. Everything I thought I knew unraveled with those 4 words. Because I did feel it. The connection. The unspoken tether that bound me to her from the second she entered my tent. It wasn't logic. It wasn't survival instinct. It was recognition. as if something in me had always been waiting for her. I stood slowly, pulling her up with me. So what happens if I stay? She hesitated. Then we run, together. Maybe we evade them. Maybe we don't. But either way, I don't face them alone. I stared out through the flap of the tent, past the trees, toward the ridgeline where the forest grew darker, deeper, harder to track. Leaving meant abandoning everything I'd known, a job I didn't care for, a home that felt more like a box, a world that moved too fast and never listened. Staying meant stepping into the unknown. Risk, death. The possibility that this connection was the last thing I'd ever feel. I turned to her. Then let's go, I said. Nora blinked. You're sure? No, I said, but I'm done being safe. She smiled again, this time wide, alive, with a kind of hope I'd never seen in her before, and in that moment, I wasn't Jax anymore, not the version who'd walked into these woods. That man was gone. This version was someone reborn beside her. The sun rose slow and pale, filtered through the high mist rolling in over the treetops. Everything looked softer in that light, less like the edge of danger and more like the hush before a storm. But we knew better. We could feel it in the earth. Nora tightened the strap on the sling that held what remained of her armor. She was moving quickly now, precise, focused, but not afraid. Her skin shimmered faintly, a soft pulse moving beneath the surface like starlight under ice. I had no gear, no map, no plan, just boots, a jacket, and her hand in mine. We stepped outside the tent together. Above us, the forest held its breath. No birds, no rustling, just the wind brushing through the leaves like a warning whispered too late. Then I saw it. Far above the tree line, something moved. Not fast, not loud. A shadow. It cut across the clouds like a wound. A vast triangle of silent motion. Too large to make sense. Too quiet to be real. A second one followed behind it. This one sharper, sleeker. And behind them, others. Smaller, faster, darting in formation. Nora's eyes tracked the sky without blinking. Scouts, she murmured. They're not here yet, but they will be. I swallowed hard. My legs wanted to freeze. My instincts screamed to turn back, to hide, to plead for a life I'd already left behind. But I looked at her instead. I'm still here. She turned to me slowly. Her expression wasn't calm anymore. It was fierce. Then don't stop moving. Not once. No matter what happens. We ran. Branches snapped underfoot. Cold air clawed at our faces. But the forest swallowed us whole as we plunged into the unknown. I didn't know where we were going, only that we had to go together. Behind us, the thunder began. It wasn't natural thunder. It didn't rumble. It pulsed, rhythmic, engine-born, a mechanical heartbeat that grew louder with every second. They're scanning, Nora said, breathless beside me. The air, the ground, mines. Mines, I gasped. They can... Think of it like sonar, but for thought. They're listening for consciousness. I almost stumbled. So they could already know. Not if you stay close to me. I can shield you for now, but I'll need focus. No fear. Just run. She grabbed my hand again, and I felt it. A shield, not physical, but mental. Like static in my brain. Not unpleasant, but heavy. Like my thoughts were suddenly echoing underwater. We ran for miles, at least it felt like miles. Time didn't work the same anymore. Not when the sky above you was crawling with vessels shaped like knives, and the woman beside you might be the only thing standing between you and erasure. Then finally, we reached the river. It was narrow but fast, rushing around jagged stones and moss-covered roots. A small path disappeared along its edge, barely wide enough for one person at a time. Nora stopped. We go upstream, she said. It'll mask our trail. I nodded, chest heaving, lungs burning. We stepped into the water. It was ice. My legs went numb almost instantly, but I kept walking, because she did. We pushed forward, hand in hand, knee-deep in biting current, the world behind us boiling with sound. In the sky, the first ship broke formation, descending. They're here, she said. Her voice was flat now, tired, resigned. I turned to her. She looked at me, not with panic, not with regret, but with something else. Love. And not soft love. Not flowers and lullabies. The kind forged in fire. The kind that happens when two souls collide in the quietest hour, when everything else is stripped away, and all that's left is truth. I stepped close to her, water swirling around us. She reached up, touched my face gently. I didn't want this, she said, but I found it. You. And now I won't lose you. I took her hand, pressed it to my chest. Then let's feel it together. In the distance, a blue beam carved a line through the trees. A scanner. Too close now. She grabbed my shoulders. I'll draw them off, she said. You go further upriver. Find the red stone cliff. There's a tunnel behind the fall. No, I snapped. We do this together. You said that. But she was already glowing, subtly, the pulse in her skin intensifying, her energy building, her presence shifting from hidden to known. I have to reveal myself, she said. They'll see only me. I shook my head, heart slamming. You'll die. She smiled again. Not sad, not afraid. If I do, it's better than feeling nothing. Before I could stop her, the sky cracked with a blinding flash. White light lit up the forest like day. Ships descended. Branches snapped. Water hissed. Leaves scattered. She turned to me one last time. Run, Jax! Then she stepped away, into the clearing, her body outlined in luminous fire. The scanners locked onto her instantly, beams converging, sensors screaming through the trees. I stood frozen, staring at her silhouette, but she didn't look back at them. She looked at me, and her eyes, those strange, beautiful silver eyes, weren't filled with fear, only fierce, undeniable love. A close-up of Nora's face as the wind howls and energy churns all around her. Her eyes glow brighter than ever. She turns her head one final time, to Jax, still watching her from the shadows, and nods. That night changed everything. The world I knew was gone, and whatever was coming next, it had already begun. Because she didn't just enter my tent, she entered my life, and I wasn't alone anymore. It was only the beginning.